Rotarians and guests, welcome to the Rotary Club of York's July 15th meeting. We are the 22nd largest Rotary Club in the world. Leading us today in our song and pledge is Steve Feldman, and providing our invocation is past President Gordon Fryrick. Steve.
Good morning, Rotarians. Please join me in a rendition of My Country 'Tis of Thee. My country 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of pilgrims pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. And our pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, visible with liberty and justice for all. I have the invocation today, and only if you think of the Red Sea as a water hazard and the Sinai Desert as a sand trap can you find any references to golf in the Bible. That being said, today's program is about renewal, the renewal of the outdoor country club and the renewal of its spirit. With that, I offer this meditation. Friendship, joy, recreation are to be treasured. We ask your blessing on the investors in this project to sustain a recreational landmark in our community. We ask your blessing on the investors in this project to sustain a recreational landmark. Keep safe and healthy those who participate and those who visit the Outdoor Country, as the Outdoor Country Club moves into a new phase of its 128-year-old history. May this business be successful and a place of happiness. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Brother Fryrick. Thank you, Brother Feldman. We have a few announcements to share with you today. We share our collective sympathy with Tom and Cindy Donnelly at the passing of Tom's mother-in-law, Mary Stevens. We also have some good news to share. We congratulate John Luciani and wife Ann on the birth of their new grandson, James, and to past district governor and our past president, Patty Rudy. Congratulations to you and Sally on the birth of your third grandchild, Finn Burke. Of that name. Also, there was a district development session on Monday evening on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that seminar had a guest speaker that was Joe Robinson from the Martin Luther King Jr. Leadership Institute. It is available on the District 7390 Facebook page, and a Zoom link to view that session will be in our announcer and on Rotary reminder emails. Gentle reminder to return your committee selection form. Our committees are the power that fuels our club's work in our community, so it's very important to have your engagement, your expertise, your passion, your influence on a committee. If you have any questions about that, you can feel free to reach out to me or anyone who's on the board. And finally, actually not finally, but just a reminder as normal, your program suggestions are welcome to Program Committee Chair and past President Mike Summers. We are working through when our club will return, so he has even more to juggle in regard to virtual versus in-person meetings. We appreciate your suggestions for both. And congratulations, now that Independence Day is behind us, Tax Day is here. So congratulations to our members in the accounting profession for making it to the extended tax deadline today. And speaking of finances, past President Josh has some good news to share with our club today. Josh.
Thanks, President Ann. And I'm sure many of you might think that I'm like a bad cold. I sort of linger around here and continue to show up on our weekly meetings. But I do have it on good word that this is still better than Al Sykes doing this. So thanks to everybody for bearing with me as I'm with you again today. I'm here with good news. I'd like to share with you the recipients of our COVID-19 relief grants that our club was able to provide to several different organizations in the community. You might recall that our board of directors allocated $30,000 to support different organizations in the community, and we wanted to let everybody know what those organizations were and how much is being contributed to each of them. So on the screen, you see the list of the 5 recipients: the York County Food Bank, the YMCA's Youth Food Program, York Fresh Food Farms, the Community Foundation United Way COVID Relief Fund, and the York Day Nursery. And the amounts are listed. It's a real privilege for our club, and while I was president, to be able to find this available funding to support the community. It's what Rotary does. We show up, we provide money whenever there's a need in our community. You may remember a few years ago that we provided some funding for the hurricane relief efforts that were in other communities. This year, we're providing some funding for our own community. So it's a real privilege to be able to present checks in those amounts to the 5 organizations that you see, and we know that that money is going to be well spent. And thanks to everybody for continuing to be a member of the Rotary Club of York, for continuing to pay your dues and to donate your money to help support all of these worthwhile organizations. Thanks so much. President Ann?
Thank you, Past President Josh, and really appreciate your work to lead us through, and also the board discussion and decisions on those. So thank you very much. Great news to share. We have Diane Marino with us, who will provide a student education fund update. Diane.
Hi, everyone. I'm here to start introducing you to Jordan Futrell. Jordan was awarded the James C. and Carrie B. Bush Scholarship last year. He is a 2019 graduate of Susquehanna High School, and he is receiving $1,000 a year for 4 years, and he has made a video to talk about how this has helped him. He's actually starting his 2nd year at the Schreier Honors College at Penn State, and he is majoring in biology, planning to attend medical school. Again, I'd like to thank the York County Community Foundation, the James C. and Carrie B. Bush Memorial Fund for making this possible to help students achieve their academic goals. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Jordan Futrell, a 2019 graduate of Susquehanna High School. I was very honored to be awarded the James C. and Carrie B. Bush Scholarship, which is a $1,000 scholarship that can be renewed for up to 4 years. I attended college at Penn State, and I am part of the Schreier Honors College there. Biology is my field of study, and I plan on attending medical school after graduation. This past year, I was a part of the Remote Area Medical Organization that helps provide free medical, dental, and eye care free of charge to those with no insurance or inadequate insurance. I was able to travel to West Virginia and serve at one of the RAM clinics, and I also was able to serve on a committee to help plan the first RAM clinic in Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, the clinic we were planning had to be canceled due to COVID-19. We were planning to host it annually starting next year. I also am a mentor for LifeLink, an organization that aims to allow those with intellectual disabilities to experience college and be as independent as possible. Being a part of the Honors College has allowed me to go on several trips with faculty and be a part of a leadership class, where I was able to do a service project in my first semester. After classes moved online, I returned to my job as a nursing assistant at a skilled care retirement facility where I live, and I've been able to serve the residents during this period of COVID-19. The James C. and Carrie B. Bush Scholarship has allowed me to take out fewer loans for school and has encouraged me to continue achieving academically and growing as an individual. Thank you so much for your support and your encouragement. Have a great day.
Thank you, Diane. We appreciate so much the work of your committee to help wonderful students like Jordan and others through their education. And certainly it's a great way to recognize the generosity of the Bushes. And we do have a few warriors in the midst, Susquehanna graduates. I know of at least Lauren Crow and past President Mike Summers and Neil Slanker and yours truly. So if there are more, let me know. But once a warrior, always a warrior. And speaking of a warrior for charitable grants in our community, Glenn Smith is up next. Glenn.
All right, thank you very much, President Ann. Well, I'm back, and we are here to highlight the recipients from this past grant cycle. The first one we're going to see is the YMCA, and that's going to be immediately followed by a presentation from CHOI, the Children's Home of York. The focus of last year's grant was work to combat childhood hunger and homelessness. Now, it's important to know that this grant would not have been possible but for the charitable donation of a former Rotarian, Benjamin Lamott, dating all the way back to 1967. And since that time, this grant committee has given in excess of $500,000 to organizations such as the two that we're going to see here today. And you too can contribute to this fund through legacy gifts. If you want to learn more information, you can contact anyone on the legacy committee or contact Bert. So first up is the YMCA, followed by CHOI. Enjoy.
Thanks to the grant that we were awarded from the Rotary Club of York, here at the Y, we were able to use those dollars to truly make an impact for those in our local community. With portions we received from the grant, we were able to provide fresh fruits and vegetables to the youth in our area at a time when access to healthy source of food may have been limited. Last summer and also so far this summer, more particularly during the COVID-19 pandemic, we provided kids 18 and under with lunch and dinner as schools began to shut down. Many families rely on meals that are given by the school, so we are proud to be able to do our part. With the other portion of the grant, we were able to begin the preliminary stages of creating a garden that will be located in the greenhouse of William Penn Senior High School. With this, our Youth Development Center will be partnering with the school as well as a local gardening group to build a curriculum that will then turn into a gardening club where students can learn gardening habits, healthy eating, and more. Stay tuned for more updates. None of this is possible without the help from the Rotary Club of York. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Andrew Texter. I'm a facilitator with the Integrated Practice Team at the Children's Home of York, and I want to take a moment to thank the Rotary for the grant we received and to talk a little bit about the work we were able to do with it. One huge need we were working on with our families is emergency food. There are food banks in York counties, but sometimes in an emergency situation, a family just can't get to the food bank fast enough, or they're limited hours, limited transportation. So one thing we did was help using the Rotary Grant Fund to help families bridge that gap between their emergency need now and when they'll be able to get to a food bank. For example, I was working with one family. They were very fresh in York County. They had small children, and they said to me, look, we know there's a food bank we can go to tomorrow, but what are we going to do tonight? My family needs food now. And that was just a perfect instance where we were able to use the grant money through the Rotary Fund to give those families emergency sustenance to get them through to when they can be connected to the food bank. Another need we worked a lot with was with beds. Beds are essential. Everyone needs a place to put their head at night. And for too many families, they just don't have the beds. Beds are kind of hard to come by. You can't really buy them used. People don't like selling used mattresses. And even if a family can find a bed somewhere, like I said, they're expensive, and transportation can be a huge issue. If you don't have a car, how are you going to get a bed from one end of town to another? So we used the fund to get beds for people who were kind of freshly in their own apartments, or they had another emergency need. For example, with one family we work with, the mom had recently gotten a PFA from her previous partner, so she was really trying to get away from that bad situation. and she kind of left with nothing. So we were able to use the Rotary Club grant to get her that bed that she needed. In another situation, we were working with a family who the kids need to be placed in emergency with their aunt, and the only way that could happen was if the family was able to get beds in this new location, and we were able to get them their beds right away so that the children could stay with family rather than being placed somewhere else in the foster care system. So again, thank you, the Rotary, so much for the work that you've enabled us to do, and it just truly reminds me of why I'm so proud to be part of this county, where we can work together and really lift each other up and help each other out. So thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Really appreciate the work that you and your committee does throughout the year. Those two examples are prime of the significant impact that your work has throughout the year, and appreciate your recognition of Mr. Lamont and starting the fund and welcoming all of our club to join in.
Absolutely. Thank you, President Ann. And stay tuned. We will be announcing the grant recipients for the current cycle very soon.
Fantastic. Okay, next we have a local biz spotlight, and many of you are familiar that fellow Rotarian Michael Black has been a key employee and contributor and with Dacio. Dacio, from humble beginnings in 2004, this family-owned and operated company now offers 8 locations throughout central PA and northern Maryland, ensuring that their customers receive excellent service and quick response time. Dacio offers multi-function copiers, wide format printers, desktop printers, IT hardware, IT support, and electronic content management. This year, their Dacio Gives Back program will donate $20 to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital for every new Toshiba copier installed. COVID-19 has drastically impacted the way they work. Over half of their workforce is working remotely. They continue to service existing customers and have earned new business relationships while adhering to the CDC guidelines that have been in place throughout the pandemic. So thank you to Michael and Dacio for providing that sneak peek business spotlight. And next, it is poll time. It is summer. It seems a little strange that it's tax day, but we are in the midst of July. So Courtney, please share our poll. Okay.
Everybody should be seeing the poll come across their screen here any second. And the poll question this week are, what are your summer vacation plans? Are you either A, social distancing and not planning to self-quarantine after returning from vacation? B, social distancing and planning to self-quarantine after returning from vacation? C, planning a staycation, not going anywhere? Or D, postponing vacation? Give everybody about a minute to fill out their responses as they're coming in. Looks like we have about 127 people on the line today. And you were just on vacation. And maybe you want to share with us what your process was.
Well, I am self-quarantining in the southern end of the county.
Okay, very good. Give it about another 10, 15 seconds. We have about 90 votes that have come in so far. So thank you everybody for being so quick.
That's great.
Okay, and I'm going to officially close the poll. So the results, Anne, were 19% said that they have no plans to self-quarantine. 16% plan to self-quarantine after returning from vacation. 21% staycation, and the largest response, 44%, postponing vacation. So thank you for everybody for your input, and we appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. Well, for all those that are postponing their vacation, there may be some more activity at the Country Club of York. So it's apropos now that we invite Steve Havas to the virtual podium to introduce our program. Steve.
All right. Thank you, President Ann. And by the way, Ron Hirschner has required me to self-quarantine in my office. I'm not sure how that happened. But back to our program. It's interesting that in the 1980s, York County had more golf courses per permanent resident per square mile than any other county in the United States. That was a business dynamic that was not sustainable. Over the next few years, a number of public courses actually closed. And then the Great Recession of 2008 hit. We now know that younger generations, especially millennials, are reluctant to join private country clubs. The Outdoor Country Club was in existence since 1892. It was not immune to these economic pressures. Jerry Watson and Bob Davis, longtime outdoor board members with over 60 years of combined membership, knew the club's current business model needed to change. The challenge they had was convincing all of the other members that they were right. They endeavored on a 2-year journey selling the notion that outdoor needed to embrace a new business model, one that was debt-free and professionally managed. Their mission was not only to ensure that the Outdoor Country Club survived, but it actually thrived. As a 30-year member, I can attest to the newfound excitement you feel within the club. All of the members owe Jerry and Bob a debt of gratitude for their vision and especially their persistence. It is my pleasure to introduce Jerry Watson and Bob Davis, who are going to provide some additional insights on their quest and the future of the Outdoor Country Club. Jerry?
Well, thank you, Steve. Thank you for that introduction, and thank you, Gordon, for your comments as part of the blessing a little earlier. So what we're going to tell you about today is really about a real estate transaction, and one that is very personal to Bob and I and to a lot of our friends. So we're going to tell you about the Outdoor Country Club and the creation of the Outdoor Equity Group, which is an LLC that was created to acquire the real estate. Hang on a minute. All right, so here's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to tell you about the history of the club, the challenges in the golf industry, the challenges at Outdoor Country Club, and then I'm going to turn it over to Bob, who's going to tell you about the process of forming the Outdoor Equity Group, a little bit about just how fortunate we were to get this done prior to the COVID-19 situation, and our ongoing partnership between the Outdoor Equity Group and Links Asset Trust, which is the people we've chosen to manage the club into the future. And he's going to talk a little bit about the future plans of the club, primarily driven by Links. So the Outdoor Club of York was established in 1892, as Steve said. And in 1892, there wasn't a whole lot of golf in the United States. And there was no golf at the Outdoor Club. It was primarily tennis, croquet, bicycling, and hiking. And I had this vision of future York Rotarians playing croquet, the men in their white linen suits and ladies in their long gowns with hats and parasols, getting ready for the Rotary Club of York golf, tennis, and croquet outing. But they were doing this at 645 Madison Avenue, and this started in 1892 and lasted till 1929. In 1929, the opportunity came to acquire the land formerly owned by the Country Club of York as they moved to their current location. So they had a 9-hole golf course on Country Club Road, where you currently would find York College of Pennsylvania. And in 1929, the club moved there, and because of the addition of golf, they changed their name from the Outdoor Club to the Outdoor Country Club. Again, in the 50s, another move was afoot. York College of Pennsylvania needed some more land and wanted to acquire the land of the Outdoor Country Club. So they began a search for land and found acreage on Detweiler Drive in Manchester Township, where the club is currently located. So between 1957 and 1959, they built an 18-hole golf course, clubhouse, swimming pool, tennis courts, all the current amenities that they have now, and moved there permanently in 1959. For those of you who are my age and older and remember the 60s, it's a pretty good time for golf. You had TV was more prevalent. The PGA Tour was on TV. You got to see Arnold Palmer, Arnie's Army. You get to be introduced to Jack Nicklaus and the feuds between golf feuds, friendly feuds between Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer, and a lot of great players during the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And golf continued to get more popular. It was a great time to be in the golf industry, and golf courses were booming. And Steve told you golf was particularly popular in York County. Lots of courses, both public and private. The private club industry pretty much maxed out in 1990 with about 4,500 courses throughout the United States. By the year 2008, this had declined slightly to 4,400 courses. But the Great Recession took its toll on private clubs. This is country clubs and golf clubs. So from a high of about 4,500 in 1990, it dropped to 4,400 in 2008, and then it started dropping precipitously through the Great Recession to by 2013, 5 years after the start of the Great Recession, more or less, we were down to slightly over 4,000 private clubs throughout the United States. The Great Recession was a big part of it, but it wasn't the only reason. Population was changing. The composition of households was becoming more diverse and changing. The traditional corporate support for membership of private clubs declined. A lot of that had to do with the tax situation, but there were other reasons for that as well. But nonetheless, corporations weren't as supportive of supporting their members in private clubs. Lifestyles changed. When my children were young, they played sports, but it wasn't as all-encompassing as it is now, where you're running to sports practice every night of the week, have weekend tournaments and travel teams, and just a lot of pressure on parents. Also, the preferences changed. People were more into casual dining and socializing and less formal dining. More options, different competition from restaurants, resorts. So also with that, the changing landscape of the private clubs, baby boomers were aging, population was diversifying, and that's not necessarily a problem. It's just an area you have to target and make it welcoming to other ethnicities. Changes to the family composition, dual income families, just less time to play golf. And for those of you who do play, you know it takes quite a while, about an average of 4 hours per round. So still today, the number of new courses is very low, almost non-existent in our area. The only new ones really are in resort areas, Florida, Arizona, California. And courses are closing every day, every year. I think to the tune of 150, 200 courses per year are closing in the United States. The number of rounds played is going down, and clubs such as ours are suffering from unsustainable levels of debt. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about me and about my experience with the Outdoor Country Club. I became a member, as Steve alluded to, in 1987. At the time, my employer had a corporate membership, and they asked me if I wanted to join. And I said, yes. I said, sure. You know, I love to play golf, and I'd love to be a part of a club. And then I said, well, where is this place? Because I've never been there. And that's true. I had never been to the Outdoor Country Club. I didn't know where it was, didn't know anything about it, but I made the decision to join. And I'm glad I did. I've developed lots of friends, Steve and Bob among them. And my family, it's been important to my family, to my wife, to the kids. They were on the swim team growing up. And my son was born in 87, and my daughter in 89. So our children never knew a time when their parents weren't members of the Outdoor Country Club. I told, I think, the Chamber and Rotary in some previous presentations about my business, Keystruck Construction, that when I wanted to start the company in 1995, I went to the driving range of the Outdoor Country Club, and that's where I found my accountant, my banker, and my attorney. And it's all true, by the way. maybe not the driving range, but certainly the outdoor country club. So over time, I got more involved with the club. I got on some committees. I was asked to join the board, and eventually I became president of the club in 2006, 2007. And luckily for me, 2006 and 7 was before the Great Recession and before the decline of the club industry. So during my term as president, things were pretty good. We had about 700 members. We have a waiting list of people wanting to join. And we did have some debt, but based on the membership, the debt numbers were very low and very manageable. So in 2008, I became ex officio. I really stopped thinking after my term as ex officio about the management of the outdoor country club. And I concentrated on instead about improving my golf game with very little success, I must admit. But then in the summer of 2018, I was playing golf with a longtime member of the club, and he asked me, "How's the club doing?" And I said, "Well, you know, I'm sure things aren't great. You know, I know membership's down, and some of the things that we were used to having before aren't here anymore, but I really don't know." So I got to thinking about this, and it happened to be Labor Day 2018. I ran into the current club president, Rich Biscoe. And I said to Rich, "Hey, Rich, I've been on a lot of committees around here, but I've never been on the finance committee. Do you think you could find room for me on the finance committee?" And this is a very unusual request from a contractor because we're always on buildings and grounds, never finance. So Rich said, "Sure. As a matter of fact, would you like to chair the committee?" So when he asked me to chair the committee in the second sentence, I knew I was in trouble and that no one else wanted to do it. And therefore, it was up to me. So I took about 10 minutes and said, "Sure, I'll do it." So it took me a couple weeks of looking through the books and talking to the controller to figure out that the situation that the club was in was unsustainable, that they may last a while, but it certainly, without drastic action, things were going to go awry and the club would no longer exist. About at this time, in a minute, I'm going to introduce my good friend Bob Davis, who's going to tell you about the formation of the Outdoor Equity Group and the action was taken to change the direction of the club. And if you can't hear it in his voice and see it in his face on the screen, I just wanted to talk about just how difficult a process this was that we went through in a year and a half, because we're both business people. We've started companies, we've acquired companies, we've started real estate partnerships, and indeed this is really a real estate partnership, but it's the most complicated one I've ever been involved with because of the number of people and entities involved and the fact that we had to pretty much get the approval of 450 people to make this happen. So with that, I'm going to introduce Bob Davis to you, and he's going to tell you the process of the formation of the Outdoor Equity Group.
Thanks, Jerry. It's great to have good friends like you and Steve Hovis. The original plan that we came up with, we leaned toward a small group of investors buying the club, hiring a manager, and having full P&L responsibility, including the possibility of cash calls to make up deficits. So what we did is we invited a bunch of our friends and fellow members to a meeting to get some information so that we could really get some kind of focus to what we want to do, because we knew we had to remove the debt of the club because the club was going to fail based upon the financial performance. So the group pretty much came up with, okay, we think we can raise the money, but how are you going to change how the club's being run so that we can be successful in the long term, because this isn't working, the plan that we have. So I looked at with Jerry with two different groups because running the club ourselves made no sense, because our LLC, we really felt it important that the people that invested in the club would not be subject to cash calls. So that we really had to have a plan going forward that required everything to be paid for by itself. So we talked with both a couple of the big leading club management firms, companies like Troon And their proposal pretty much was, well, you pay us $100,000 and we'll put a GM in there and they'll report to us and we'll manage your club as best we can. But if there's any financial shortcomings, the members are going to have to make that up. And we didn't think that was a very good deal. And then we talked to a fellow in the golf club management business. He says, hey, you need to really talk to these fellows at Resorts Development Partners, Frank Denniston and Douglas White. They have over 60 years of management experience. And what their proposal is they want to lease the club from you. So you have a debt-free club, you lease them, they will manage it and run it as their own operation. They'll take the responsibility of all the payroll, the employees, the rules, the membership programs, the levels of membership, the fees, and we'll hammer out a lease agreement that'll make you, the investor, happy and us, RDP, the operator, happy. And they'll pay a percentage of the gross revenue as a rent payment. And then what they'll do is the same percentage of rent, what they'll do is they'll invest that into the facility from a capital plan. So we have an ongoing capital plan that's being funded by the revenue of the club. So some of the real challenges we had getting to that point to the end is that the member perception of our financial situation was not as dire as it really was. We were in trouble and we needed to do something different and resolve the debt. We did get support of the board with the debt mitigation committee, and we did have very many conversations with different groups of members and also full member meetings to update them on the situation. But we couldn't really get across how dire it was because we didn't want to panic. We had a plan in place. There was no reason to panic. The members were also concerned about this new group's ability to run the club any better than was being run now. And our answer in having them speak to the members and our experience was these guys have run clubs, some of the best clubs in America, and they have the experience to do this. And they know what needs to be done to increase revenue and improve member satisfaction. What we did to address that is we did put in the management agreement or the lease agreement that we really need to have key measurables for performance of the key things that we thought about that were important for customer satisfaction, and they're being measured on a monthly basis. So at the end, we had got all the money that we pledged, that we needed to have pledged to resolve the situation. So we needed now to have the members. We have approximately 60 members who are members of the Outdoor Equity Group, and there are over 300 members of Outdoor Country Club. So we had to convince the 300 that the 60 of us were to be trusted in buying the club and running the club in their best interest. So we had a vote of all club members, and we received over 95% approval with support of our plan. So we knew at that time, and we had been measuring people all along, that we had a tremendous amount of support from the membership. The key provisions of the LLC agreement is you need to be a club member to purchase shares in the club. And we did on front when we came up with all the bylaws that any change to the bylaws or out of bylaws need a 75% plus one amount of support to sell land or make any other financial decision. So the whole group, pretty much the whole group, needs to be supportive of the plan for us to do it. We believe that this will allow us also to continue to have a more conservative, prudent look at our plan going forward, and how that will be prudent and conservative about it rather than figuring the next way to take debt, because that was the big mistake that Outdoor had made, and then they lost members. No one person can own more than 24.5% of the shares. That's another thing. So we didn't want ownership concentrated in a couple, 3 or 4 people that we buy the club and they could change the plan that we had in place. So as of now, no one member owns more than 5% of the shares. So it is, in fact, a pretty well-rounded group of 60 members who any one of them don't control any more than 5% of the shares. So these people have done this because they love the club. It's a lifestyle investment for them. They're York Countyans. They love the members and the club at Outdoor, and they want to continue to have that as an option. And it just would be a shame if a 128-year-old club that's been such a part of York's community failed. It was so important to me and to Jerry as well that we really needed to get this done. So at that point, we were at the end of the year in December of 2019, and we had planned a close date of April 28th. I'm sorry, February 28th. And we got down, we were a week away from that, and we still needed some more documents resolved or something else signed, so we moved it back to March 2nd. So on March 2nd, the Outdoor Equity Group purchased all the assets of the Outdoor Country Club, and at the same time, we entered into a lease with Resorts Development Partners to lease our club from us. Now, if you guys remember back like I do, March 2nd seems like 4 years ago, but it's just a few months ago. And on March 16th or so, that's when the governor shut down all the clubs. So the fellows that the people that we leased the club to were essentially out of business 16 days after we leased the club to them. But they have done really inventive, smart things to continue to keep the facilities in amazing shape. They're continuing to invest. They're doing a lot of painting and changing the entire clubhouse with flooring and painting. They've kept the golf course in amazing condition, and they started a pretty very nice food service to the members where you could get takeout food until the pandemic issues started to get resolved a little bit. So I guess in the last few weeks, they've opened the club up for outside dining. People eat out on the patio. It's very nice. So since the pandemic has happened, since we leased the club to RDP, they're very happy with the transaction as we are. Membership is up over 5% since the changeover, even with this pandemic. The amount of golf being played on the golf course and the outside facilities is up by 60% this year. People are going out and playing golf and going to the club. Member satisfaction has improved dramatically. I think that our food quality is so much better with professional management. So currently there are renovations going to the entire clubhouse. There's a push right now to attract new members, specifically targeting younger members, women, and culturally diverse individuals and families. And they're rebranding the club as a fun place to play, dine, and hang out. And we are the club that has no debt right now. We have an amazing golf course. We have amazing members. There's amazing friendships that we all have there. It was very important to both Jerry and I to go down swinging on this one, and I'm very fortunate that Jerry agreed to work this project with me, because I surely couldn't have got it done myself, and hopefully he would say that he wouldn't get his done himself either. It just was a whole lot of work for us, but it was well worth the effort. When you have people in their 80s come up and say thank you very much for saving our club, it surely means a lot. And like Steve Hovis said nice words about us in the beginning. That's why we do a lot of these things. So that's the extent of what I have. I'm asking right now if there are any questions of the group.
Bob, I'd like to ask you a question. Could you speak to the challenges in regard to the functions that you were not able to hold? I'm sure, weddings and social events were a big part of the revenue stream. How have you been able to navigate that?
The club has an arm's length relationship with Resorts Development Partners, so we don't know the exact changes to the impact of their profitability, but we know that, like our club and many other places, people have been cause serious problem by not being able to have their events because of the current pandemic. I know that the management of Resource Development Partners at this time was able to skinny down their labor operation so that they're able to reschedule events, and they're able to have the minimum amount of staff on site to make the current member satisfied. But it is a significant problem across the board in the hospitality industry.
Mhm. Okay, another question that came in. Are there any thoughts to opening the bistro for dining to the public or a separate membership?
Is Jerry going to be a part of this? I'll answer that one, but not at this time. There are social memberships that are available, which are typically all the facilities are at the use of a social member. They can swim, they can eat, they can go to the events. I don't believe that it's going to be open to the public.
Okay.
So join as a social member and you'll have a great time, and it'll be the best investment of money you made this year.
Well, speaking of that, I have two questions that are somewhat related, so I'll combine them for you. How many members do you currently have, and do you have a goal in mind of growth over the next few years? And then if you could share the costs of membership, Bob or Jerry.
Go ahead, Jerry.
I don't know the cost of all the membership categories, but I think we have, is it 460? 460 members?
420, I think.
Something like that. They're expecting exponential growth primarily in social members. They're going to limit the number of golf members to 275. We're not there yet, but I think we're at 225 to 250.
Mm-hmm.
But the primary growth will be in social membership.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I don't know the cost.
Okay.
Social memberships, the minimum point of entry to social membership, I think, is around $1,800 or $2,000 a year, and a full golf membership is, I want to say, $5,000 a year, $5,200 a year.
Okay. Bob, you had mentioned some renovations, including, I believe, painting and new flooring, and a question came in about when will the ballroom be renovated? I don't really know when it last was renovated, but maybe you could speak to that.
Jerry, you've seen this, Jerry.
The ballroom has been renovated. It has new flooring and new paint. So that work has been done. We just need some events to have in it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The final question is, have you changed the monthly due structure for current or new members?
No.
Okay.
There's a proviso in the lease agreement that there's a percentage that is a cap that the dues can be increased by. I think it's 4 or 5% a year. So the dues can't ever increase more than 5% a year.
Okay, and one more question came in. Are there new revenue streams beyond the traditional ones of golf and tennis fees and dining and catering that you're possibly exploring?
I can't answer that because we're not in charge of revenue. We're the landlords. RDP is involved with that. I haven't heard of anything, Bob. Have you heard of anything? I think, they would like to explore expansion of the catering operation, not necessarily off-site, but more weddings, more bar mitzvahs, big events.
And they've talked, Jerry, about improving the experience for weddings and different opportunities with some of the older structures we have on the facility and some other things they can bring to it. So I think that a year or two from now we'll know what their plans are, because they'll put their money where their mouth is and they'll invest in it.
It sounds like you've picked a great partner. Well, thank you very much, Steve, Jerry, Bob, for your leadership of this asset in our community, for the home base of our club. We certainly miss the fellowship that the pandemic has delayed, but we also miss the excellent fare that the country club provides for our lunch. So Bob, you mentioned food quality is improving with the professional management. So we're excited to sink our teeth into that and see what the team will serve up for us. But we really appreciate you sharing the interesting insights into the club operations and the challenges that you've overcome. The club is obviously in great leadership, 95% vote, testament to that. So thank you very much, Steve and Bob. We welcome you to come back anytime and join our meetings, and also hope you consider membership. Thank you, gents, for that update.
Thank you.
Very helpful. And then finally, for our members, we are going to ask Bob and Jerry and Steve to sign the book plate in a book that will be donated to York Day Nursery, and that is an Elephant and Piggie Biggie. So thank you very much to our speakers, and we know that will go to some deserving youth in our community. Next week, our program will be provided by Dr. Pamela Gunter-Smith, President of York College of Pennsylvania. We're just going down the road for the next presenter. Well, this is an excellent time as parents and students are preparing to hear how colleges are handling in-person, electron or virtual education, athletics, housing, and more. So please join us next week. And we have up next, for your enjoyment, we welcome to the Rotary stage Mr. Stevie Wonder with his Rock and Roll Hall of Fame version of Superstition. Hit it, Courtney.
Gonna give it one more try here.
Stevie having some stage fright.
Yes.
We can bring him back for an encore next week.
Yeah, and it looks like that might be what we have to do. I apologize. We'll bring him back next week. So stay tuned. See everybody next week. Thank you.
Take care.